There it is, everybody. An album cover with a few random fingers wiggling around on the side. A sure indicator that if you're watching live on Facebook, that it is a Wednesday. It is 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that I am Malcolm Tent, and this is Tent Talks Tunes, baby. I ain't talking runes. I'm not talking about the moon. I'm not talking about June or a spoon. I'm talking about tunes, baby. Because that's what I do. I cannot help it. I have this genetic disposition toward talking about music, and I learned a long time ago, never argue with genetics. Don't do it. As Devo have said so often, biology is destiny, and your arms are too short to box with God. So when I wake up in the morning with that indescribable, uncontrollable urge to talk about music, I follow it wherever it may take me. So welcome aboard, everybody. Let's see what's going on here. We got a lot of stuff going on. Anybody out there? I don't see any names. Nobody's chiming in. No one's saying hello. I'm saying hello to you. Where are you? I want to make sure you're here and that Facebook is not indulging in one of its periodic cock-ups in which I think I'm going live, but I'm not. It's happened a few times before. It's very vexing. So I'm not going to really dig into the brass tacks aspect of things until I'm reasonably sure that I actually do have an audience. So somebody chime in and let me know. For all you people who are watching this later on, archived on my YouTube channel, which you really should subscribe to, you can sort of get a whiff of what the raw, live excitement is like here on Tent Talks Tunes, when I'm literally flying by the seat of my pants. All right, my main man, Larry Mann, has chimed in, and he is here. So if he's here, you're here. As is Mr. James Pogo from the fabulous Arm Delight Rifles, a super fine band from this very area who I've talked about in the past. And if you do indeed go to my YouTube channel and look at some of the archived episodes of Tent Talks Tunes, you will definitely hear mentions of the Arm Delight Rifles, and the name Larry Mann will no doubt pop up more than once. So, all right, now that I know that I've got you hooked, let's take a look at a few things. Let's look at the bulletin board, first of all. I mean, we'll be looking at the bulletin board for the entire length of the show, but I might as well point out a few items of interest on yon bulletin board. Hello, Stephen Smith, down in Richmond, VA, RVA, one of my favorite destinations when I'm on the road, and one which I will hopefully maybe be passing through during the great late period of August when I travel down to North Carolina on business for the almighty Antiseen. There's a number of different routes I can take. Sometimes I can take the more inland route. Sometimes I can take the more coastal route. I wonder if I should take the coastal route on my way up back to Connecticut and stop by Richmond and check out some cool record stores and scenic sights. I wonder. That's something to think about. Mr. Smith's presence has inspired me to consider it. Kyle Hilton is in the house. Where are you from, Kyle? What great town are you checking in from? I like to know where you people are. It's very exciting to see how far my reach extends and how far the reach of my bulletin board extends. We've got a couple of things happening, as mentioned before. Ground Zero, Antiseen live in Spartanburg, South Carolina. That's Friday, August 27th. The date draws near. The time is nigh, baby. Capital N-I-G-H. 27th in Spartanburg. The 28th in Charlotte. The Queen City herself, Antiseen, hometown gig live. That one's free. You don't get to see Antiseen for free very often. Antiseen is not a cheap band. We are not a cheap date. But this is a special occasion because we love the Tipsy Borough. They've been friends of the band longer than I've been in the band. Good food, good people. Come on down and check it out and rock out with Antiseen. That's a weekend, kids. You'll notice here the presence of the Thunder Lumber. Perfectly in tune. It's not just a prop. This is what I've been banging on for the past few nights, learning a massive set of Antiseen songs for these two shows. I'm not going to be a spoiler or reveal any surprises, but I will say, be ready for surprises. I don't think that when it comes to the set that we're going to be playing, which will be different each night, no one's going to walk away disappointed. Good stuff afoot. So go there. Go there. Let's see, that's the bulletin board. We'll check the billboard. I'm reminded by a memory that popped up in my feed the other day that I have not done any hype in quite a while on my fabulous solo album, The Multiple Moods of Malcontent. It's been a while. So I'm going to tell you guys that this thing does exist. It is here. I do have copies of it, and I would want you definitely to buy at least one of them, because it not only has a really great smorgasbord of photos of me, all the way from when I was in the 4th grade up until the Broken Talent days of 1984 to the very good-looking specimen that you've got now. Not only that, it's got an incredible smorgasbord of the bands that I've been in since pretty much day one. Everybody from Broken Talent to the King Hatreds to, quote, The Residents, unquote, to Ultrabunny to the aforementioned Antiseen, and some of my own solo stuff. Pressed on very exciting colored vinyl. I don't know if the camera will do justice to the color of vinyl. This is kind of like a smoky greenish gray. And a very helpful insert with all kinds of propaganda and information and photos about my very storied and illustrious career. $10. That's all I want for the damn thing. $10. With shipping, it comes to $15. You cannot even buy a sorbet for $15 these days, but you can get the Multiple Moods of Malcontent for $15 postpaid in the US of A. PayPal it, mt@malcontent.net. Send me cold hard cash, P.O. Box 3626, Newtown, Connecticut, 06470. I don't care what form it takes. Y'all might know I'm an avid coin collector. So if you don't have like a $10 bill laying around or 20 rolls of pennies laying around, you can send me, let's see, you can send me 10 Liberty Head nickels, minted between the years 1883 and 1912. Send me 10 Liberty Head nickels, and I will send you a Multiple Moods of Malcontent album. That's all I want. 10 Liberty Head nickels, 2 Standing Liberty quarters, minted between 1916 and 1931. 2 of those, or any Washington quarters minted before 1965. Send me 3 of those, and I'll send you a Multiple Moods of Malcontent album. More fun than money, but I'll take money too. All right, that's the billboard. And the billboard led logically enough to what's going to happen next, the mailbox. We love checking the mailbox every single week to see what's arrived. Because I love getting things in the mail, and I love sending things out in the mail too. To all of you, my frantic fans, loyal listeners, and vibrational viewers. And we got a great big box in the mail this week with a return address from a name that I recognize very much, Logan Butler. Yes, from Get Awesome Records in the Bronx, New York. Logan Butler is a former employee of mine. He was one of the counter workers at my brick and mortar record store, Trash American Style. And his nickname was Logano. Just about everybody who worked for me acquired a sobriquet at some point, so his was Logano. So Logano sent me a box, and we're going to take a real quick look and see what's in here. As I get my box opener here, we're going to carve this thing up and see what's inside of it. Let's see. Oh, by the way, Kyle is from Seattle. Whoa, pretty cool, man. And Kyle's still waiting for me to come out. Oh, Kyle. All right. The last name threw me. Kyle is still waiting for me to come out and visit and play a show in Seattle. As I've said so often, you book it, I'll play it. Rumor has it I will be heading at least as far as Cleveland, possibly St. Louis, and likely stops in Illinois and Indiana this coming November. So if I can go out and play solo acoustic shows that far west, how much work could it be to get me out to Seattle? Ball's in your court, kids. I'm very easy. All I need is a reasonable offer, a place to stay, and a table to set up my merch. That's really all I want. If you want me to play your town, not with the Thunder Lumber, but with my blue, sparkly acoustic guitar, hit me up. I'm extremely reasonable, and I love to play. So yeah, let's see what's in this box from Logano, man. You can see the real action here. I'm going to carve this thing open. We have all kinds of stuff here. All right, here's a disclaimer. I can read his handwriting. Some weirdo metal punk hardcore to check out and enjoy. That's real handwriting. I love that kind of thing. When somebody takes the effort to use a pen and write something on a piece of paper, I think that's great. And a noise 7-inch too. And look at that. He's as good as his word. We have here a CD. There's no way I can possibly read what that says, but apparently Logano sings on that one. Pretty cool. Ooh, we got some cassettes. Blue Sabbath, Black Cheer, and Wicked King Wicker. I know that's going to be a big sludge feast. Yeah. Well, there we go. Another logo I can't read. If anybody knows what that says, please clue me in. I have no idea. Oh boy, we've got some stuff. Ah, look at this. The trading cards, the requisite trading cards. Fabulous Freebirds, baby. And Robert Plant. I love this kind of stuff, man. Love it. Well, another card from Pop Bottle Candy. Oh, look at that. It's a kaiju. It's a kaiju. No, it's not kaiju. I think it's alien. Yeah, that's alien in it. Isn't that funny? I have to hold this up to the camera in order to actually see it. Sure looks like alien to me. That's a card. And oh, I can read what that says even with my crappy dollar store glasses. The Shrink Wrap Killers. And some records. And this is very interesting. This is an envelope full of packing material with an extremely cryptic note from a professional wrestler calling himself Wolverine Carcass. I'm sure it's very threatening. I'll have to save that for later. Ah, Logano, you're in there. Logano is actually providing real-time translations as to just what the hell this says. That says Templar? You gotta be kidding me. I believe you. I believe you. I believe you. Logano, thank you so very much. I got something I'm going to send to you, and I already know what it is. So go to the return address, wherever that is, and start camping out. Because I got something for you. I'm going to enjoy sending it to you. So thank you for all your years of service to Trash American Style. To Logano! And boxes full of goodies. If you want to reciprocate, there's my address. P.O. Box 3626, Newtown, Connecticut, 06470. Just saying. All right. Enough falderall. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty and let's talk tunes, shall we? Yeah, a bit of randomonium this week. Sometimes I have an overarching theme of stuff I want to talk about. Sometimes I don't. This week I didn't, but I had a few specific items I did want to talk about. Some topics that are near and dear to my jaundiced, mummified, deep frozen heart. One of them is albums that the critics get wrong. It's not like I'm at a state of war with the critics, but whenever I read about an album that the critics consistently get wrong, it certainly raises my hackles, and I feel the need to address the grievous wrong that the critics have imparted upon the album in question. And in this case, this is an album that you might not think I would love, but I love this album. This is an actual, genuine, honest-to-God classic album. And you probably really, like, I have a hard time believing I love this album myself, because it's quite unlikely. But I first heard a song from this album when I was driving up the Taconic Parkway to Bard College in Annandale, New York, and I was tuned into the great WFMU, which for my money is the best radio station on planet Earth. Love FMU. Been a long, long, long time listener to WFMU. And they've got a couple of repeater stations up north, and one of them I was tuned into, and I heard this song that just blew me away. This really great guitar kind of pop song with female vocals, tasty chord changes. I love the girl's voice, and I'll say girl because she was definitely a lot younger than I was, the girl's voice, and I had to know what it was, but I, of course, couldn't quite make it out. So I did my research. One reason why I love WFMU is because I was able to go to their website and actually look up the playlist for the radio show that was on while I was driving. And they had the whole thing broken down, every single song. They might have even had the actual time it was aired. It was completely nuts. And I found the name of the band and the song, and I went out immediately and got the album, although it was only on CD. This album right here, Best Coast, Crazy for You. And this album, I think, you know, it had a real sort of bubble of popularity for a while. They were kind of like critical darlings for a while, and there's a lot of hype about them. And, you know, usually I don't go for that stuff at all. But, man, that song was so good. It was such a good song. And I got the album, and actually, just to make the story more accurate, I didn't get the album for a while. I recorded that one song off the WFMU stream because I had the stream of that very radio show I was listening to. I listened to the song, made a tape of it off the stream, and sort of like that sort of like, you know, nursed me along for a while. And then maybe even a year or two later, I was on tour in Michigan at a record store. Might have even been that very one, when I found the CD, and it was like $10 new, and I was like, okay, I gotta get this. I need to hear what the rest of this album is like. And it blew me away. Blew me away. Every song on this record is a killer. Kyle wants to know what song it was. The song was called Goodbye. Man. This very minute, this very moment, I can listen to that song and get chills. Larry Mann chimes in and says, Boyfriend. Yep, side 1, track 1, or on the CD, just track 1. Great stuff. And as far as I'm concerned, and I risk slipping into critic mode right now, I'm just a fan, though. I'm just telling it like it is. This is like the masterpiece for this band. I've never heard anything else by them that even comes close to this. Just saying. But the critics... Man, the critics don't know jack about what this album is really about. They're missing the whole point. I've heard this album described as being the perfect sunny summertime record. Did anybody listen to the lyrics on this album? Any of the lyrics on this album? I mean, maybe you could take any one song in isolation and maybe mistake it for like a love song, or maybe you could not mistake anything on this for a sunny summertime anthem. This is 12 songs in a row of morbid obsession. This is a young girl who is completely, fanatically, crazily obsessed with a complete and utter creep. And it's just one song after another about how obsessed this girl is with this jerk. There's no resolution. There's no happy ending. It's nothing but constant tension and drama and conflict and crazy. Hence the title, Crazy for You. It's just one song after another. And it's dark. A lot of them, the guitars are jangly and a lot of the chords are catchy and the riffs are certainly hooky, but it's just, literally, it's nuts. It's totally nuts. The best way to get the maximum effect of this record is to play the 12 songs and then start over again and play it again from the start and listen to all 12 songs and then play it again. That is the nature of the obsession that is in this album. And that's why I love it so much. Sunny summertime music? Wrong. I also have a lot of, I've got a bit of a beef with some of the critics who made a point of pointing out that a lot of the rhyme schemes are used a lot. Like lazy, crazy is one that appears a lot. Well, of course, this chick's obsessed. This is nothing about how she gets crazy, like manic, and then lazy, depressed, over and over and over again. That's the nature of the obsession. That's the cycle that this poor kid is going through, and she just happens to write about it beautifully. You'll notice there are some numbers on the outside of the jewel case there. Those are numbers that I flagged for radio play. When I finally do get back onto the air on WNHU and have my regular radio show, that's how many songs I think are radio-friendly hit tunes, no matter how completely obsessive and morbidly crazy they are. Great, great album. It's not a happy album. It's not a sunny summertime album. The critics got it wrong. That's my beef. Yeah, it's simplistic. It's supposed to be. Yeah, it's repetitive. That's the idea. Bethany Cosentino, if you're out there, I salute you. And old Bob, too, in the band for bringing the vision beautifully to life. You guys are all right. Okay, that's one topic I got out of the way that's really been sticking in my craw for a while now. Do you know where the craw is? Craw's about right there. It's a part of the digestive tract relating to the stomach. And just, getting something stuck in there, very unpleasant. So that critical misinterpretation has been stuck right there. Excuse me, I still have to try to belch some of it out. Stuck in my craw, dude. Okay. Enough of the craw. Let's talk about a critically underrated album. Shannon Neff, my main dog, formerly of Marion, Virginia, and then Roanoke, Virginia, and now I believe Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Long-time pal of mine. Welcome, Shannon. Shannon must have known that there's going to be some talk about a certain band I used to be in and a tour that we went on. Shannon must have known that. Stay tuned for talk from that era. All eras are good. Today is a great day. But that particular era was really good. We're going to hear about some of that. And Shannon loves WFMU. Damn right. Shannon's always had good taste. So here's a really critically underrated album. Well, there you go with the critics again, right? The critics. The critics have given complete, utter short shrift to an album that is really, really good. Not that there's anything new about that. But this is one that, once again, kind of stuck in my craw, that an album this good would sort of fall by the wayside. And that is a very unlikely category, a very unlikely candidate, I should say. Jesus by X. That's right, X from Los Angeles. Los Angeles, I don't understand. All right, what is it? The adult books. Jackie Suzanne, I don't understand. Wrong song. The right song is She Had to Leave Los Angeles. Everybody knows the classic X albums. In fact, even when X played in Fairfield, Connecticut a couple of years ago, and or actually, you know what? I'm going to get my story right. When they played in Ridgefield, Connecticut a few years ago, and I had the pleasure of interviewing John Doe on my WNHU radio show. And I had, the usual rock thing, backstage pass, all that, to see X. And I got to meet the band, you know, meet and greet, blah, 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 blah. Hang out with them, get autographs. You may notice, if you can really pay attention, that this is fully autographed. Can't really see it. It's black on dark colors, but it is autographed. Even the members of X just kind of referred to the first four, you know, the first four albums. That's all they played. The both times I saw them was nothing but songs off the first four albums, which is fine. But even they totally gave short shrift to some of the later output, including this one. In fact, John Doe was like, "Oh wow, I haven't seen one of these in a long time." And I said, "I love this album." He said, "Yeah, I like it too." And what I told him is what I'm going to tell all of you folks out there. What my opinion of it is, this is a really good album that is in serious need of a remix. Really needs a remix. Because this dates back to, I believe, 1991, at the absolute depth of digital mania. You know, this one doesn't have the actual disclaimer on it that these things used to, but you'd look on the back cover and it would be the three boxes that would say DDD, digital, 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 digitally recorded, digitally mixed, digitally mastered. What a load of shit that is, man. You get the worst sounding, harshest, most glaring, blaring ear torture you can imagine when you go digital, digital, digital. At least from that era. I'm sure now, in fact, I know now that the edges have been smoothed on all digital recordings, and that's kind of the norm, because who can afford analog, analog, analog? I know I can't. But at this time, this is when digital, digital, digital was really being pushed to the limits. So it's like everything was brick-walled, which is to say every single level was louder than everything else. Everything was pushed to the max in digital recordings. And everything is like shriekingly bright and tinny. And I've always likened digital, digital, digital recordings to lighting your house with halogen floodlights. You know, you can light your house with halogen bright white floodlights, and you'll be able to see everything crystal clear. There won't be a single shadow anywhere in the room. You can look around and see the very grain on the wood panel. You can see the wrinkle in the curtain. You can see everything all the time, everywhere, bright and clear. But the problem is you're not supposed to see things like that. You're supposed to see shadows and shading and light and dark. And not every detail is supposed to be vividly outlined, gouging your eyes out. And sound is the same way. When you have this sort of unrelenting, relentless, constant 10 out of 10 clarity on everything, it starts to get fatiguing on your ears, you know? It really does. And that's the problem with this record. Everything is completely maxed out all the time. And it's a shame because there are a number of good songs. Once again, you can see, kind of maybe hopefully, that I, you know, wrote on the, there you go. You can see the numbers, the track numbers that I selected for radio play. There's a lot of them on this record. They're really good. James Pogo, Country at War, real good song. Any number of them, really good. And it's a shame that this record totally got overlooked. I mean, this album, when it came out, literally came and went. It was on Mercury Records, which has always been a real second-tier label. So you can be sure that the distribution on it was really poor. It's actually on a Mercury subsidiary label. I can't even read what the logo is. Still can't read what it is. Big World, I think? Still can't really see it. Whatever, but it was on a subsidiary of a second-tier label. All right? And this is at a time in the early 90s when the major labels were signing anybody, any band, anywhere that could have even remotely been considered alt-rock or an influence on Nirvana. Basically, if Kurt Cobain ever mentioned a band ever in an interview anywhere, some label would track them down and sign them. Didn't matter if they'd been broken up. You know, X being a good example. X had been, I don't know if they actually broke up. They hadn't done anything in at least 4 or maybe 5 years at this time. They did it with X. They did it with Flipper. Flipper signed to a major label? WTF. They signed Daniel Johnston. They signed the Melvins. They signed the Meat Puppets. All of these bands got signed to major labels. And not a single one of them, with the exception of the Melvins somehow squeezed out 2 albums when they were on Atlantic Records. And maybe somebody out there knows, did the Meat Puppets ever actually record a second album for London Records? Scott Monroe's chiming in, maybe you know. You can tell me. But basically, in the vast majority of cases, these bands were able to squeeze out 1 album, maybe 2. None of them sold the numbers that Nirvana sold. And so that was it. That was the extent of all of these alt-rock progenitors' major label deals in the early 90s. I do believe that X had a live album that came out after this on the same label. That was about it. Bob Eaton, Firehose, another example. Yep. Yeah, we've got a few clarifications. Everybody, please chime in. This is good information. I didn't need to know. You know things I don't know. So, yeah, get the discussion going. Anyway, excuse me. So there was always this sort of air of cynicism about it, at least on my part. You know, okay, X gets back together because some shitty major label wants to sign them to a record deal because they're trying to capitalize on Nirvana because everybody wants the next Nirvana. So this label's going to sign this band, and, you know, it just seemed completely, utterly cynical. And in some cases it was. You know, Flipper comes to mind. Boy, what a, if I dare to use the term clusterfuck that was. I should do a whole episode on that when Flipper signed to Deaf American. So it was very easy not to take an album like this seriously because it was part of this giant industry cash grab. And, you know, some of the records that I did listen to, because I loved Flipper so much, I listened to that album when I got my promo copy of it, and it sucked. It was mediocre at the very, very, very best. A mediocre Flipper album. That's insulting, baby. Insulting. And the Daniel Johnston album. I'm sure old Daniel tried. I'm sure his intentions were really sincere, but, you know, it's just the production and, I mean, whatever. It just wasn't going to happen. So you've got all this really cynical, cash-grabby type stuff going on. So to me, it was very difficult to take the X record seriously. And many, many, many years later, in quest of things to play on my radio show, I came across a copy of this, said, well, why not? Let's give it a listen. If it totally blows, thanks to the CD skip button, I can get through it in about 30 seconds. No problem. Much to my surprise, it's chock full of great songs. Like, really good. Really, really good songs. I personally would love it if X went out and did something other than the first 4 albums. Why not play songs from this album so we can hear them in a real live setting with real organic instruments? Why not do the same thing with Ain't Love Grand, their 5th album, which is kind of the same deal. The songs are good, the production is caca doo-doo, and the performances are a little heavy metal-ish. But the tunes are still great. And the lyrics are really, I mean, it has such potential to be a great album. It really does. The only one from that era, from the post-first 4 albums, that I'm not really totally bullish on is See How We Are. And just because the songwriting on that one, I think they were trying to embrace their American folkloricist streak a little too much on that one. I think the record kind of falls flat. And it sucks for Tony Gilkyson, who was the guitar player on that record and is also the guitar player on this one. You know, it's the syndrome we see so much. New guy joins the band, replaces a key former member of the group, in this case Billy Zoom. Billy Zoom on guitar out, Tony Gilkyson in. The band releases an album that's okay, and so the entire thing's got a stigma to it, which was probably part of why the X album Jesus sort of came and went. He was unfairly stigmatized by the lineup. What are you going to do? It's a great record. I'm sure you can find it out there somewhere for $1. Well worth the buck. Oh, you guys are really chiming in, man. This is great. I'll be reading all this later, and any people who are watching on YouTube later on when this is not running live, the offer stands. Leave comments. We can get some lively discussions going on YouTube, even when we're not live. So I'll reiterate, go to my YouTube channel, subscribe, and check out Tent Talks Tunes. You can always be a part of the show. My show is a lot more fun when you guys chime in. But let's see what we got here. Gary Childs and Scott Monroe having a discussion about digital reverb. Thank you very much. Let's see. All right. There's some clarification about when the first Meat Puppets major label album came out. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, love it. Need to know. Gotta hear it. Need to know. And Jennifer Lee Reynolds says Melvins forever. I agree. I agree. The Melvins, at least the first album on the Atlantic by the Melvins, was a Melvins record. Real Melvins record. And the fact that the Melvins came up with the album Prick, if anybody's ever heard that one, and presented it to Atlantic as their second album, that takes a lot of chutzpah. And for that alone, the Melvins get a big fat salute. I tried to listen to Prick once and I couldn't. And I mean that as a compliment. I couldn't even get through that record, and they presented it to Atlantic as a potential major label release. Atlantic, of course, refused to release it because that's what they do. But giving your record company an album called Prick, sounding like that, big thumbs up. Big thumbs up to the Melvins. And they're still at it to this day. Love it. All right, I got another one here that the critics have unfairly maligned. And actually just about every fan of this band is unfairly maligned. In fact, everybody in the entire universe has pretty much unfairly maligned this next album. This album pretty much stocked the cutout bins single-handedly for quite a while in the mid to late 80s. This is one where if you went to a Jefferson's department store, or Caldor, or Montgomery Ward, and you were looking through the cutout bins of cheap remaindered albums, you could pretty much be guaranteed to find mega multiple copies of this one right here, baby. This record was doomed from the get-go. And I've talked about this record before on Tent Talks Tunes, so I'm not going to get too in-depth on it, but I figured it's worth mentioning. The so-called Black Sabbath featuring Tony Iommi, Seventh Star. And all I'm going to say about this album, which the critics at the time certainly didn't get, and I think there might be some more enlightened thinking about it now, this album was never meant to be a Black Sabbath record, ever. It was supposed to be a Tony Iommi solo album. That's how it was recorded. The people who play on this record were working on a Tony Iommi solo album, and up until almost the very last minute, it was scheduled for release as a Tony Iommi solo album. In fact, I've still got, or I shouldn't say that, I don't know if I still do, but for a long time I had somewhere in the archive an original Warner Brothers release sheet that I got at the record store I worked at the time with upcoming releases on it, and it says very clearly, Tony Iommi. No title yet, but Tony Iommi with a release date. And so I was quite surprised when we got the promos and it said Black Sabbath featuring Tony Iommi. Well, right off the bat, that's a deal killer because this record sounds nothing at all like Black Sabbath. It was never meant to. The people on it weren't trying to sound like Black Sabbath. So when the stupid major label, Warner Brothers, has a panic attack because they figure a Tony Iommi record won't sell, and they demand that the name Black Sabbath be put on it, and they do this shitty, stupid compromise of Black Sabbath featuring Tony Iommi. It just looked so stupid right from the get-go that nobody took it seriously. I certainly didn't, and I love Black Sabbath. I worship Black Sabbath. Worship them. And John Farrell says that Tony Iommi was supposed to be in the big font and Black Sabbath in the small font. And look what happened. Do I believe it? Of course I believe it. That's the way these stupid, idiotic record companies deal. They're morons. They're idiots. Wow, I sound kind of mad, don't I? I should be. I should be. I am. They do dumb career-killing shit like this to legitimate artists, you know? But you got to admit, the cover doesn't look very interesting. It certainly didn't, you know, after the great Born Again album cover. And if you people have never seen Black Sabbath Born Again, the album cover, look it up. I guarantee satisfaction. You know, you want to talk about eye gouging? Born Again. And then this kind of lumpy looking thing comes out. Very obviously put together by the Warner Brothers in-house graphics department. It looks like a record that's going to sound the way it looks. And the back is not much better. And there is very little sparkle or elan to this. I don't remember what Ozzy Osbourne record came out at the same time as this one. Might have been what was the Ozzy Osbourne record that came out in '86? Late '85, early '86. Somebody let us know. But you can bet that whatever Ozzy Osbourne record was on the market looked a lot more interesting than this. So this record was doomed. Doomed! And it was judged by the Black Sabbath yardstick, which really just put the only nail in the coffin for that one. It's not really not a bad record, really. It's got a couple of decent songs, and if you look once again on the plastic sleeve, it's got my radio notes. I describe this album as being very LA. A5 and B2 are decent. And that's the thing. Very LA. Very LA. Very 80s. If you like that kind of thing, you'll love this. But, yeah, not Black Sabbath. It weren't supposed to be. John Farrell says, did the Ultimate Sin. Ultimate Sin, is that the one that came out at the same time as Seventh Star? Well, just look at the cover of that one, baby. It's a lot more fun and a lot more interesting. And from what I've heard, I've never heard the record, but it has very low regard in the Ozzy Osbourne camp and by a lot of serious hardcore Ozzy fans. So I guess apparently, this is just my speculation, they were running neck and neck in the quality department, but Ozzy's record looked so much better. It was definitely an Ozzy Osbourne record, not Blizzard of Oz featuring Ozzy Osbourne. Man, that stuff went out with vaudeville. That shows you the level these idiots at the major labels think on. Vaudeville. Sheer vaudeville. Nothing wrong with vaudeville, but vaudeville works for vaudeville, not rock and roll. God damn. I'm really getting in a lather here. Better calm down. I'm going to mention, too, since I've got my lather up and I have the Thunder Lumber here, you people might know that the heaviest song in the entire history of mankind is Black Sabbath. The title track, the theme song of Black Sabbath. And again, I might be wrong about this, because I'm not sure about the tuning on the early Sabbath records. But playing along with the song Black Sabbath on the Thunder Lumber, the heaviest song ever written is in standard E tuning in the key of G. Maybe Sabbath knocked it down an octave, I don't know. I'm just a punk rock dude, I'm not a virtuoso. But when I play along with that album on the Thunder Lumber, it's in the natural key of G. They didn't need to down tune. And this is coming from a guy, I'm the bass player in the Bloody Apostles, and we tuned down to a B. So there's nothing wrong with it. I like it. But it's just a, it just goes to show that there's more to mere heaviness than simple heaviness. Larry wants to know, how is Harry the cat? Well, Harry's doing all right. I don't know if you guys can see, but Harry is his usual snuggly, cuddly self. And he's giving me another nice, wonderful dose of poison ivy. Because Harry's an outdoor guy. And he comes indoors, and I give him a nice, thorough brushing down with the cat brush. And that usually removes all the poison ivy, but I apparently missed a spot. So Harry's happy. I'm itchy as hell. And if any of you people have been paying real close attention to this episode of Tent Talks Tunes, you might have seen a kind of like scratchy motion periodically. That's the poison ivy, baby. Welcome to Connecticut, right? Core blimey. So thanks for asking. Harry's doing all right. Boy, this is a lot of fun, man. I'm really getting all pissed off. You guys are having fun chiming in. This is great. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Eric Johnson has confirmed that Ultimate Sin came out in '86. That's it. It was Ultimate Sin versus Seventh Star. No contesto, bro. All right. Now we're going to talk about a record that makes me very happy. Very happy. This is one where you can believe the hype. This is one where the critics have gotten it right for over 60 years. And it's funny because I never heard this record before. I've never ever heard the album in question before. As I'm fond of saying, there are many more records that I've never heard than I have heard. John Farrell, Born Again. We just talked about Born Again. I'll probably talk about Born Again again, but not tonight. Nope, we're going to talk about a record I have never heard before because, there's only so many hours in the day. You can't listen to every record all the time. Discovery is as discovery does. Things come to you when they come to you. And in this case, this record literally came to me, as many do. I've mentioned before that I make my bread and butter by buying and selling records, which is, of course, my cue right now to go and invite you to check out my Discogs store, which is called TPOS. If you go on to eBay, my username is Trash American Style, one word, as in the classic brick and mortar record store, Trash American Style. You can also look up TPOS. And also my pal Austin, who, like Logano, is a former employee at my shop, he pointed out that my website, malcolmtent.net, didn't have an easy-to-access link on the home page to my Discogs shop. That has been remedied. I have rectified that. So if you go to malcolmtent.net, besides finding lots of fun stuff and fun content relating to me, you can now more easily find a link to the Discogs shop. So all is well. And let's see, John Farrell, his comment about Born Again got a laugh from somebody. Who's laughing at Born Again? Oh, Stephen Smith. I'm going to have to go to Richmond just to argue in person with you, Smith, about Born Again. Oh, now the laugh is gone. I love winning arguments. Love it. Anyway, buying and selling records. I recently bought a really cool collection with a lot of really neat jazz records in it. And all original owner, all came from this one guy. And this dude was buying records in the late 50s into the early 60s, and in it was a copy of this album right here, the one that I flashed at the beginning of the show, Kind of Blue by Miles Davis. And I'd never heard that record. I'd never heard this record, and normally I wouldn't go out of my way to play it. You know, because it's just one of those things I would not occur to listen to. But in my business, as a buyer and seller of records, it's my job to listen to records that, like this copy here, I don't know if you can really see it, the vinyl's not in such great shape, but look at that. That's a white label promo, kids. It is a stone cold original white label promo of Kind of Blue by Miles Davis. And I'll see if you can get a glimpse. It actually looks a lot better on camera than it does in person. There's a lot of, okay, you can see some real blems. Yeah, you can see some blems right there at about right there. And it's got a lot of hairline scratches and some scuffs. So this is potentially a pretty rare and valuable record. So in order to get a fair price on it, because there's one thing I hate, it's overpricing, whether anybody else does it or whether I do it. So in order not to overprice this, I had to give it the needle test, which meant getting myself a, on the day in question, nice cup of vegan yogurt and some raisins and an apple and some nice whole wheat toast, and sit down and make myself comfortable and put this white label promo copy of Miles Davis on the turntable to give it a listen and see how it sounds. Because if it plays well, I can get better money for it than if it doesn't play well. You know, it's just the simple realities of the business. I'm picky that way. I'm really picky that way. So before I actually sat down and dropped the needle in the groove, I looked at this thing and I just kind of flashed to the historical time and place, you know, whatever it was, 1958, I think, 59, to what it must have been like to be somebody at a record store or a radio station or maybe a newspaper or a magazine, getting this advanced promotional copy. These were the first records off the press, you know, the first ones to go out. Being one of the first people ever to pull this record out the sleeve, having never heard it, not knowing anything about it, and listening to it for the first time ever, and hearing the music contained on it. I mean, I'm not a jazz man the same way I am a rock and roller, but I do know some jazz. I knew a bit about it. And what I was kind of aware of was the fact that most of the music made prior to Kind of Blue was like hard bop. There was also swing music, big band music, bebop, whatever you have, you know, all kinds of different jazz music. But I knew when I was listening to this record that I was hearing something that had never been heard before prior to the recording of this record. It's literally music that nobody had ever heard before. And I was just thinking about it, like everything from the tempos of the songs to the space in the compositions and the way these guys play. And I was having a conversation with my youngest brother about this because I played the record and it blew my mind, especially putting it into that kind of context where you're hearing something that had literally never been heard before and starting to understand why this music was so new and unique at the time and literally so game-changing. My brother's got a really keen analytical mind, and he's definitely a jazz man. Like, he knows his stuff. So he was explaining things to me like how the pianist Bill Evans would play these chord progressions and chord structures that seemingly had no sense. They were seemingly nonsensical, but he was actually playing these, I don't know how to describe it, these extended chord progressions that all related to the root notes in a chord. Kind of like how Charlie Parker used to play solos on the saxophone. it would sound like a bunch of squawking and skronking and squealing for a long time, but all of a sudden everything would come together because he'd started in one place, explored every possible angle within the confines of the chord that he started out at, which meant going from, to like, whatever you want, from E to B, and then from B to F sharp, and then like whatever it is, going all the way through these twisted, labyrinthine note sequences that seemingly made no sense, but they were all related to the root, to the source that he was playing from. And he would land back there, and it would suddenly come together. Stuff like that. The piano playing is like that. The way the horns form these really long, elongated chords. You just got to listen to it and just sort of put yourself in a place where all you've ever heard your entire life was, say, hard bop. And to go from hard bop to the sounds and the music on Kind of Blue. And just imagine yourself, you're hearing that for the first time ever. Whew. It sent me into outer space, and I loved it. This is an album that, if I could afford to keep this one, if I could afford to keep this white label promo of Kind of Blue, I would, but I can't. I was happy to report that I made it the entire way through the album. It sounded pretty good. No skips, no gouges, no jumps. Bit of surface noise, but it basically plays really well. So, everybody happy. I got myself a nice rare album that should be able to flip for some good bucks. And I discovered just how and just why it really, really is that good. And I can assure you all that the next time I find myself a good, cheap, affordable copy, I'm keeping it. Put that in the bank, baby, while I put it in my record collection. So there you go, kids. We were able to end this week's episode of Tent Talks Tunes on a happy, positive high note. Because that's the way I like to do it. There's enough gloom and doom and defeat and despair out there. It is not my policy to add to that. In fact, it is contrary to my policy to add to that. I would rather add good music, good friends, and stimulating conversation about the aforementioned. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I do appreciate it. Just want to give you all one more reminder that this record can still be had at an incredibly reasonable price. The Multiple Moods of Malcolm Tent, a 14.5 song collection, which spans my entire career as a rock-a-rolla. Get it from me direct, 15 bucks post-paid, or of course get it from my aforementioned Discogs and eBay stores. Antiseen coming up. Bloody Apostles on deck. And me, Malcolm Tent, looking forward to seeing all of you guys in about 167 hours' time. So until we meet again, I say so long from the Nutmeg State.